In a quiet corner of the Andromeda Galaxy, far away from Earth, there floated a giant space station made of silver and light. Inside it, some of the smartest alien minds were working in silence. They were called the Zorakians, a highly intelligent species with green skin, long heads, and large black eyes. Their brains were strong, but their bodies were weak. They believed they were the most advanced life forms in the galaxy. But one day, that belief was challenged. A scientist named Dr. Glorax stood inside the Galactic Research Lab, staring at a screen. His eyes were wide. His 3 fingers tapped on the glowing buttons again and again, trying to believe what he was seeing. "This cannot be correct," he whispered to himself. The screen showed something shocking. Humans on Earth could mate every day, 365 days a year. Dr. Glorax called for a meeting with the Galactic Science Council. The large circular room filled with the top Zorakian minds. They all looked at him with interest as he showed them the data. "These creatures called humans, they are doing something impossible," Glorax said. "They engage in mating activities almost daily. Their bodies don't break. Their system doesn't collapse. Their ... tool does not snap." The room was filled with gasps and clicks, which was how Zorakians showed surprise. "That is unnatural," said one old scientist. "Even we, the great Zorakians, can only mate once every 39 lunar cycles. Maybe their data is fake," suggested another . Dr. Glorax shook his head. "No, I have observed real-time footage. I have read their internet. I have studied their dating behavior. Their bodies regenerate fast. Their minds are built differently. I need to know." How one council member leaned forward. "Why does this matter, Dr. Glorax?" Glorax raised his voice slightly. "Because if we learn their secret, we can improve our own species. We can remove our weaknesses. Think about it. Energy, endurance, recovery. All from simple human biology." The council members looked at each other, then nodded. "Very well, you may go to Earth," said the leader. "But stay hidden. Do not reveal who you are. Study one human closely. Find out what makes them so strong." Dr. Glorax bowed. "I will not fail." A week later, a small, invisible spaceship entered Earth's atmosphere. It landed quietly in a forest outside New York City. Inside, Dr. Glorax adjusted his transformation suit. With the push of a button, his green alien body turned into that of a normal human male, about 30 years. Old, strong build, short hair, brown eyes. He called himself George. His mission was simple: study a normal human male and find the answer to the question that shocked the galaxy. How can humans mate 365 days a year without breaking their tool? He chose his subject, Jake Carter, a fitness trainer who worked at a small gym in Brooklyn. Jake was not a celebrity, not a scientist, just a simple man with a regular life. But Glorax found him fascinating. Jake woke up early, drank protein shakes, helped people lift weights, smiled at pretty girls, and walked home with music in his ears. Every day, he laughed, sweated, flirted, and lived with so much energy. Glorax. Now, George joined the gym. He pretended to be a new client who wanted to get fit. He wore tiny cameras in his glasses, and his smartwatch secretly recorded Jake's voice, movements, and behavior. Jake welcomed him warmly. "Hey man, I'm Jake. Let's get started. You're gonna love it here." Glorax smiled politely. Inside, he thought, why is he so ... happy? Where does this energy come from? Each day, Glorax followed Jake from the gym to his home, from the cafe to the park. He watched Jake laugh with friends, text girls, and play basketball. Nothing about him was supernatural. He wasn't a hero. But still, his body was in top shape. He healed quickly. His mood stayed strong, and he definitely had interest. in mating. Nearly all the time, Glorax started writing in his alien journal. Day 6. The subject continues to surprise me. His body recovers from stress in hours. His energy resets each day. Even his desire level stays high. Perhaps this is not just about the body. Perhaps the mind plays a role. One evening, Jake went on a date with a girl named Sophie. Glorax followed from a distance, watching them laugh, talk, hold hands. Emotion, connection, chemistry. He whispered to himself. This species is more complicated than I thought. He looked up at the stars and said in a low voice, I was sent here to study mating, but maybe I will discover something far deeper. The sun rose slowly over New York City, painting the buildings gold. But for Dr. Glorax, now disguised as a human named George, the real heat was just beginning. It had been 1 week since his arrival on Earth. 1 week of pretending. 1 week of watching Jake Carter, a human gym trainer, full of energy, desire, and mystery. Glorax was fascinated and confused. Every day, this human wakes up ready to fight the world. Why? What fuels him? Is it food, hormones, or something we Zarakians have never understood? These questions echoed in Glorax's alien mind. The gym was loud. Machines screamed. Weights slammed. People sweated, grunted, and smiled at each other. Glorax had never seen anything like it. In Zarakian culture, there was no physical touch, no loud emotion. But here, in this human temple of strength, emotion flowed like electricity. Jake walked across the gym like a king high-fiving people. Laughing, helping others lift more than they thought they could. Push harder, Jake shouted. Your body listens to your mind. That one sentence made Glorax stop. Your body listens to your mind. He whispered the words again and again. Do humans control their biology through willpower? He had scanned Jake's muscles, heart rate, hormone levels, all normal. But what if the secret wasn't inside the body? What if it was inside the mind? That night, Glorax stood in front of his mirror in his small apartment. The room was filled with alien tech hidden in plain sight. His toothbrush was a scanner. His mirror was a DNA reader, and his pillow recorded his thoughts. He stared at his fake human face and said, I am not weak. I am not broken. I can wake up tomorrow and be stronger. It felt silly. But that's what Jake said to himself every day. Then something happened. His alien device blinked. His muscle tension slightly increased. His pulse became steadier. Is this ... confidence? Glorax whispered ... the next morning. Glorax followed Jake again, but this time not to the gym. Jake was at a diner with friends. They drank coffee, joked about life, and talked about ... well, everything. From dating to money to dreams. I've been single for months, one friend said. That's because you act like a robot. Jake laughed. Glorax made a note. Humans laugh even in pain. They flirt, fail, and try again. They recover emotionally, like their bodies. Later, Jake matched with someone on a dating app. He didn't look nervous, just ... curious, as if every moment of human connection was an adventure. That evening, Glorax sent a secret message back to the Galactic Council using his quantum communicator. Zarakian report, Earth observation. Day 12 subject, human male, age 31 activity. Mating behavior observed through social signals. Findings, no signs of hormonal crash or mental exhaustion. Emotional energy is high. Hypothesis, mating readiness is not just biological. Emotional strength may be key. Next step, deep psychological analysis. Possible brain scan via stealth tech. He paused before adding one last line. Warning. I may be enjoying this mission more than expected. Asterisk that night, as Glorax was reviewing Jake's gym data. He noticed something strange on the gym's security camera. A tall man in a black hoodie, standing still in the corner for hours. ... Not working out. Not blinking. Glorax zoomed in. The man's face was too perfect, skin too smooth, movements too controlled. Another alien, Glorax thought. Am I being watched? The mission just got more dangerous. The next day, Jake pulled Glorax aside after a workout. You're quiet, man, Jake said. You always thinking? Glorax replied, slowly, I'm trying to understand how you humans keep going. Every day, with so much energy. Jake smiled. Easy. We don't overthink it. We just live. You rest, eat, love, fall down, get back up. That's the game. That hit Glorax like a shockwave. Don't overthink. Just live. Was overthinking the very thing that made Zerakians weak? He stared at Jake, realizing something huge. Maybe humans are strong because they don't. Fear failure, they embrace the chaos. Closing hook later that night, Glorax stood on his apartment rooftop, looking at the moon. He whispered, Jake Carter, you may be the most powerful creature I've ever met. Not because of your body, but because of your heart. He looked at his own human hands and said, maybe. It's time I start living too. ChatGPT said. The rain tapped softly against the window of Glorax's small apartment. Outside, New York buzzed with life, cars, lights, voices. Inside, an alien in human skin sat silently, staring at a glowing hologram of Jake Carter's DNA. He had collected the sample using a disguised protein shake bottle, secretly scanned it using his toothbrush, and uploaded it to a Zerakian analyzer. Now, the data floated before him like a constellation of stars. But something was wrong. It didn't look like standard human DNA. There was ... something extra, a strange little twist in the spiral. Something Glorax couldn't identify. He zoomed in. The sequence pulsed softly, glowing blue, then red. This wasn't a mutation. It wasn't a flaw. It was something else entirely. A hidden gene. His 3 hearts skipped a beat. This gene didn't match any known pattern across the galaxy. Not in plants. Not in animals. Not in any intelligent species the Zerakians had studied over millennia. And yet, it sat quietly in Jake's body as normal as a fingerprint. Impossible, Glorax muttered. He ran the sequence again. The result was the same. Less hidden. Genes seemed to control several key functions: fast recovery, mood balance, hormonal regulation, pain tolerance, and even desire. In simple terms, it gave humans the ability to recharge quickly, both physically and emotionally, like resetting a system every night. No overloading, no breakdown, just ... reset and go again. Glorax leaned back and whispered, so that's how they do it. He closed his eyes. He could almost hear the words echoing in his mind. Jake's voice, full of confidence. Your body listens to your mind. But what if the reverse was also true? What if the mind was shaped by this special gene? Suddenly, Glorax felt small. His own people, the mighty Zerakians, needed chemicals, cycles, rituals. Even mating was planned like surgery. No emotion, no randomness. But here, humans mixed logic with chaos, pleasure with pain, emotion with instinct. They laughed after heartbreak. They tried again after failure. And somehow, their bodies followed their hearts. He turned back to the DNA. It's not just code, he said softly. It's purpose. In that moment, Glorax decided he couldn't just observe anymore. Watching Jake from a distance wouldn't be enough. He needed to feel what Jake felt, understand what it meant to live in that kind of body, with that kind of mind. He reached for his injector, a small silver device that could introduce DNA safely into any host. Zorakian law forbade this kind of action. It was considered a crime, a violation of protocol. But Glorax didn't care anymore. This wasn't about rules. This was about discovery. He loaded the DNA strand. The injector beeped once. A warning. Flashed, genetic risk unknown. He pressed it to his neck. Click, a cold wave rushed through his veins. For a second, he couldn't breathe. Then, his vision blurred. His skin burned. He fell to his knees. Time slowed. Colors twisted. His heartbeats clashed like drums. Then, silence. He opened his eyes. The air felt different. The world was louder. Brighter. Smells were sharper. His fingers tingled. And for the first time in his life, he felt something he had only ever studied. Hunger. Not for food, not for data, but for experience. He wanted to run, to shout, to hold someone, to touch, to laugh, to feel. It was terrifying and beautiful. He looked in the mirror, same human face, same fake smile. But behind the eyes, something had changed. He was no longer just a visitor. He was becoming human, and that was just the beginning. From deep space, a silent probe floated above Earth, watching. Inside, another pair of alien eyes stared at Glorax's file. They had seen the injection. They knew what he had done, and the council would not be pleased. Not at all. Asterisk Sophie laughed. It wasn't a loud laugh. It was soft, warm, the kind that made time pause for half a second. Glorax felt it from across the cafe, not in his ears, but somewhere deep in his chest. A strange tightness, unfamiliar and unscientific. He made a note on his hidden wrist pad. Human laughter. Possible biological stimulant. Study emotional. Effect Jake was sitting across from her, sipping coffee, legs casually crossed. Talking about something unimportant. A dog he saw wearing sunglasses, maybe? It didn't matter. What mattered was the invisible energy flowing between them. Sophie leaned in. Jake smiled without effort. Their eyes met and stayed there longer than any Zorakian communication protocol would allow. Glorax didn't understand it. Not fully. He had studied mating rituals across galaxies. Fire-winged Avaranians used dance. The stone-bodied Krolaxians used vibration. But humans, they used words, looks, emotions. And most shockingly, humans attached mating to feeling. Zorakians found this ridiculous. Attachment was dangerous. Feelings were distractions. Emotions were unstable code. But Jake and Sophie weren't unstable. They were glowing. Alive, Dot and Glorax, from behind dark glasses at the next table, felt. Envious later that night, he watched the cafe recording again, frame by frame. He measured heart rates, voice tones, pupil dilation. All signs pointed to one conclusion. The human mating drive is amplified by emotional connection. Desire wasn't just physical. It was layered, complicated, deep. This changed everything. For years, the Galactic Council believed humans were reckless, mating daily because of weak control. But what if it was the opposite? What if they were strong because they connected first? Back at his apartment, Glorax sat in silence. The DNA injection from last night still pulsed through him. He felt stronger. His skin was warmer. His heartbeat now had rhythm, not just function. He could feel mood, cravings, even oddly. The need to be touched, not for study, just ... touch. And that scared him. He pulled up Jake's daily logs. Watching him walk Sophie home, say goodbye with a grin, then text her, "Let's do this." Again, soon, a small message. No scientific value, but it made Glorax's stomach tighten. He didn't want to just understand. Jake anymore. He wanted to be Jake, not for science. Not for his mission, for himself. That realization hit harder than the DNA injection. He stared at his reflection in the mirror, the same fake human face, now trembling slightly. Feelings are a chemical illusion, he whispered, repeating an old Zarakian teaching. But deep down, he already knew the truth. That illusion felt more real than anything he'd ever known. He was no longer just studying humans. He was falling into their world, and soon, he might never want to come back. Far above Earth, the Council's surveillance satellite locked onto his signal. One red light blinked. ChatGPT said. The needle was still on the table. Small, silver, silent, but the memory of it roared inside. Glorax like a second heartbeat. The injection had changed more than his body. It had opened something he didn't know was locked. It had been 3 days since he merged Jake's DNA into his own system. 3 days since he started feeling ... alive. He didn't sleep. Not because he was busy, but because he didn't want to. His mind was on fire. Music felt louder. Food tasted brighter. The wind on his skin wasn't just temperature anymore. It was sensation. For the first time, Glorax wasn't collecting data. He was experiencing it, and that was the problem. On the 4th day, he stopped logging Jake's behavior. He didn't follow, didn't record. He walked the city alone, blending in, watching people laugh, argue, kiss, cry, and he felt all of it like waves crashing through him. He touched the rain with his bare hand and whispered, "No simulation could prepare me for this." But in the far dark corners of space, his silence had been noticed. Zarakian law forbids personal mutation. Emotional contamination is the highest crime. And Dr. Glorax, perfect scientist, loyal explorer, respected mind, had broken both rules. At 3:02 a.m. Earth time, a Zarakian command ship uncloaked in the shadow of Earth's moon. Sight it. Enforcer Vrel read the report silently, his 4 eyes narrowing. Emotional deviation confirmed, he said coldly. Retrieve or terminate. Back on Earth, Glorax didn't know they were coming. He stood in front of a mirror, shirtless, examining his body. His muscles had changed, stronger, more human. But deeper than that, his instincts had changed. He didn't wake up thinking about reports. He woke up wondering if Sophie liked Jake back. He caught himself humming a song he didn't remember learning. He noticed the shape of a smile on a stranger's face and felt something. Curiosity, joy, hunger, regret. He looked in his own eyes and whispered, "This is dangerous." And yet, he smiled. He knew he should stop, but he didn't want to. He turned his scanner inward, a full-body cellular map. His neural pathways had begun to rewire. His hormone levels were fluctuating. His pleasure centers had expanded. His empathy circuits previously dormant were now fully awake. He wasn't just observing humans anymore. He was becoming one. Mapped terrified him. Because if Zarakians found out, there would be no trial, only erasure. That evening, he walked into the gym. Jake spotted him from across the room and grinned. "Hey George, you disappeared for a few days. All good?" Glorax nodded. "I needed time to think." Jake laughed. "Don't think too much. That's how you miss the good stuff." Those words hit harder than expected. He realized Jake didn't even know how wise he was. Humans were careless, loud, strange, but within them lived something more powerful than any weapon: choice. They didn't do things because they had to. They did them because they wanted to. No logic, just desire. That's why they could mate every day. That's why they could break and still get up. That's why they were ... unstoppable. But Glorax was being watched. From across the street, a man in a gray coat stood still. He didn't blink, didn't breathe. not human. Enforcer Vrel had arrived, and Glorax had no idea his time was running. Out asterisk, the smell of metal and ozone filled the alley. Glorax could taste it before he saw him. A figure stepped from the shadows, tall, motionless, eyes like cut obsidian. No sound, no heartbeat, no emotion, just cold purpose wrapped in synthetic skin. Enforcer Vrel Zarakian. Justice didn't use trials. It used Vrel. Glorax knew what this meant. He had seen it before on distant moons, on quiet planets. The moment a scientist stepped too close to feeling, Vrel appeared. Not to ask questions, to erase, but this time was different. This time, Glorax wasn't ready to die quietly. "You followed me," he said, his voice steady, but his pulse racing with human fire. "You're here to take me back." Vrel didn't blink. "You violated the code. You merged with foreign DNA. You allowed desire to cloud logic." "I allowed life to enter me," Glorax snapped. "Is that so wrong?" Vrel tilted his head. "Yes." From his wrist, a blade unfolded, thin, humming. Bright with the hum of annihilation, you will be extracted. Your memory will be purged. Your body will be recycled. But Glorax didn't move. He wasn't afraid. Not anymore. He looked past Vrel, toward the end of the alley, where city lights blinked and human laughter floated through the air. Jake was out there. Sophie was out there. A world that made no sense, yet somehow worked, and suddenly Glorax smiled. "I'm not going with you," he said. "You have no weapon," Vrel replied. "I don't need one," Glorax said. "I have something stronger." He stepped forward. Emotion Jake was closing the gym when Glorax stumbled in, bleeding slightly from his shoulder. "Whoa, what happened, man?" Glorax looked at him, really looked at him. "You ever feel like you've been to people? One who watches and one who lives." Jake chuckled. "Every damn day." "I think," Glorax said, shaking, "I've finally stopped watching." Jake frowned. "You're not making much sense, bro." "I'm not supposed to," Glorax whispered. "I'm not even supposed to exist like this." Then he collapsed. Jake caught him just before he hit the floor, in a small, dim apartment 2 blocks away. Vrel stared at the cracked wall, blade still humming. He had hesitated just for a moment. Glorax's eyes, they weren't alien anymore. They had feeling. Not fear, not logic. Something more, and in that flicker of doubt. Glorax had escaped. No target had ever escaped Vrel. He deactivated the blade. For the first time in his programmed life, he chose not to finish a mission. Then, slowly, he whispered something strange. Something no enforcer had ever said before. "What does it feel like?" When Glorax woke up, Jake was beside him, holding a bag of ice and a burrito. "Don't ask why, man," Jake said, "but food helps with everything." Glorax took the burrito, and for the first time in 2 lifetimes, he laughed, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. The stars above Earth were silent, but they were watching. From the outer orbit, the Galactic Council hovered in judgment, their silver chamber drifting like a ghost above the planet they now feared. Inside, 13 beings of pure intellect reviewed the final transmission from Dr. Glorax. It was not data, not a chart, not a report. It was a heartbeat, a human one, and it was his back on Earth. Glorax stood barefoot on the roof of his apartment. The wind tugged at his shirt, city lights blinking below like human stars. Somewhere, music played from a car stereo. Somewhere, Jake was probably lifting something heavy and laughing about it. He had been given a choice: return to the council, be cleansed, forget this life, or stay. Live feel. He closed his eyes. He could still hear Sophie's laugh echoing in his memory. Smell the cheap gym soap. Remember how a simple burrito made him feel more welcome than 10 years of Zarakian metals in a hidden pocket of his jacket? The last injector pulsed, filled not with science, but with himself. His full genetic state, human and Zarakian. A new species. One born not from evolution, but from choice. This was no longer a mission. It was a rebellion, a quiet, personal revolution in the streets below. A figure in a gray coat waited Vrel. He didn't activate his blade. He didn't send a signal home. He just stood there, looking. Up, maybe he was still calculating. Or maybe, just maybe, he was beginning to wonder what it felt like to choose something for no reason at all. No purpose. No function. Just because, Glorax recorded a final message. Not for the council, not even for science, for whoever might come next, alien or human, confused about why humans endure, why they fight, why they break and heal, love and leave, fail and rise. Again, and still, somehow, go on. They are not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest, but they are the ones who keep getting up. They feel pain and keep touching fire. They feel heartbreak and still search for connection. They are fragile, but never finished. They fall in love with the chaos of living, and somehow, that makes them unstoppable. He sent it across the stars, not as a warning, as an invitation. Then he crushed the injector in his hand. He wasn't going back. He wasn't half anything anymore. He was just alive. And somewhere, far across the galaxy, a young Zarakian scientist opened the strange human signal, heard the laughter in it, and smiled. For the first time, for no reason at all.